What if one small bookshop could change someone's life forever? What if the right book found you exactly when you needed it most? And what if today's story could teach you lessons that might change the way you think about life? In this story, you'll learn why it's never too late to start again, how one small act of kindness can change someone's life, why believing in yourself is the first step towards success, and why every ending can become the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. So don't skip this story, because by the end, you won't just improve your English. You may also discover a lesson you'll remember for the rest of your life. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to English Horizon. I'm Hamza, and I'm so happy you're here. Today, we're going to enjoy a brand new original story called The Little Bookshop. This isn't just an English story. It's a story about hope, friendship, courage, second chances, and believing in yourself even when life feels difficult. As you listen, you'll naturally improve your English listening, vocabulary, pronunciation, and speaking skills. So don't worry if you don't understand every word. Just relax, enjoy the story, and let your English improve one sentence at a time. Now, are you ready to discover what one little bookshop can teach us about life? Let's begin. The Little Bookshop, Chapter 1. A quiet street and a small dream. The little bookshop stood on a quiet street where very few people stopped. It was not big or modern. It had old wooden shelves, soft yellow lights, and a small bell above the door. Every time someone entered, the bell made a gentle ding. Outside, there was a simple sign that read, The Little Bookshop. Many people walked past it every day, but only a few opened the door. The owner of the bookshop was a 70-year-old man named Mr. Oliver. He had kind eyes, gray hair, and a warm smile that made everyone feel welcome. For more than 40 years, he had loved books. To him, books were never just paper and ink. They were friends. They were teachers. They were doors to new worlds. Every morning, before the sun rose, Mr. Oliver unlocked the shop. He carefully cleaned the windows. He dusted every shelf. He watered the small green plants near the entrance. Then he placed a handwritten sign outside. It always said the same thing. Welcome. Take your time. Every book has a reader, and every reader has a story. After that, he made himself a cup of tea and sat near the front window. Sometimes customers came. Sometimes no one came for hours. Still, Mr. Oliver never complained. He believed that every day brought someone who needed a story. He only had to wait. One cold Monday morning, the street was unusually quiet. Dark clouds covered the sky. A light wind carried dry leaves across the road. Mr. Oliver looked outside with his cup of tea. He smiled softly and whispered, "Maybe today someone's life will change." He had no idea how true those words would become. Chapter 2. The First Visitor. The young woman who entered the shop looked around quietly. She was about 26 years old. She wore a dark blue coat and carried a backpack that looked heavy. Her name was Emma. She did not smile. She looked tired, as if she had not slept well for many nights. She walked slowly between the bookshelves. Her fingers gently touched the books, but she did not take any of them. Mr. Oliver did not interrupt her. He believed that people should never be rushed inside a bookshop. After several minutes, Emma stopped in front of a shelf filled with classic novels. She picked up one book. She looked at the cover. Then she quietly put it back. Mr. Oliver walked over with a gentle smile. "Good morning," he said. Emma smiled politely. "Good morning. Is there a book you're looking for?" Emma looked down for a moment. "I'm not sure." Mr. Oliver nodded. "Sometimes people don't look for a book. They're looking for a feeling." Emma looked surprised. "What do you mean?" Mr. Oliver smiled. "Some people want hope. Some want courage. Some want peace. And sometimes the right story finds them." Emma remained silent. Those words stayed in her mind. After a few seconds, she finally spoke. "I lost my job last week. I've been sending applications every day, but no one replies. I feel like I've failed." Mr. Oliver listened carefully. He didn't interrupt. He didn't offer quick advice. Instead, he walked to a nearby shelf. He picked up an old novel with a faded blue cover. He handed it to Emma. This book helped me many years ago. Emma looked at the title, The Road Ahead. It isn't famous, Mr. Oliver said, but sometimes the quiet books have the loudest lessons. Emma smiled for the first time. It wasn't a big smile, but it was real. How much is it? She asked. Mr. Oliver shook his head. It's a gift. Emma looked surprised. I can't accept that. You can, he replied. But there's one condition. Emma laughed softly. What is it? When you finish reading it, come back and tell me what you learned. Emma held the book close to her chest. I promise. As she walked toward the door, the little bell rang again. Ding! Mr. Oliver watched her leave. He smiled quietly. Then he whispered to himself, sometimes people don't need expensive gifts. They only need someone who believes in them. Outside, Emma looked at the little bookshop one more time before walking away. She didn't know it yet, but this small visit was the beginning of a brand new chapter in her life. Chapter 3. A Promise Returns. For the next few days, the little bookshop was as quiet as always. The bell above the door rang only a few times each day. Some customers came in to buy a notebook. Some looked around for a few minutes and then left. Mr. Oliver greeted everyone with the same warm smile. He never tried to sell books. He simply believed that people would find the right book when they were ready. Every afternoon, he looked toward the door for a moment. He wondered if Emma would return. He did not expect anything. After all, people often made promises they forgot. But 1 week later, on a bright Friday morning, the little bell rang again. Ding! Mr. Oliver looked up from the book he was reading. A familiar face stood at the entrance. It was Emma. This time, she looked different. She was still wearing the same blue coat, but there was something new in her eyes. She looked lighter. She looked calmer. She walked to the counter, holding the blue book carefully in her hands. I came back, she said with a smile. I can see that, Mr. Oliver replied, and I think you've brought more than just the book. Emma laughed. I think you're right. Mr. Oliver poured 2 cups of warm tea. They sat near the front window where the morning sunlight filled the little shop. For a few moments, neither of them spoke. The silence felt comfortable. Finally, Emma placed the book on the table. I finished it, and she smiled softly. It didn't magically solve my problems, but it changed the way I looked at them. Mr. Oliver nodded. Sometimes that's even more powerful. Emma looked outside at the people walking along the street. I realized something. I've been waiting for someone else to change my life. I kept hoping that one phone call or one email would make everything better. But the book reminded me that every new chapter begins when we decide to turn the page ourselves. Mr. Oliver smiled proudly. That's a beautiful lesson, Emma continued. So, I started doing more than sending job applications. I updated my skills. I joined an online course. I even started reading again every evening instead of worrying all night. Mr. Oliver's eyes shone with quiet happiness. You've already begun your new chapter. Emma looked around the little bookshop. I want to thank you. You didn't just give me a book. You gave me hope. Mr. Oliver shook his head gently. The hope was already inside you. The book simply helped you find it. Just then, the little bell rang once more. Ding! An elderly woman stepped inside slowly. She looked around with uncertain eyes, as if she had entered the wrong place. Mr. Oliver stood up with his usual warm smile. Good morning, he said kindly. Welcome to the little bookshop. The woman smiled nervously. I'm looking for a book. What kind of book? She hesitated before answering. A book that teaches someone how to stop feeling lonely. Emma quietly looked at Mr. Oliver. She suddenly understood something. A week ago, she had walked into this shop carrying her own sadness. Now another person had arrived carrying a different kind of pain. Without thinking, Emma stood up. She gently pulled out the empty chair beside her. Would you like to sit with us? She asked. The woman looked surprised. Then, for the first time that morning, she smiled. Chapter 4. 3 strangers, 1 table. The elderly woman walked slowly toward the table. She sat down carefully and placed her small handbag on her lap. Thank you, she said softly. My name is Grace. I'm Emma, the young woman replied with a smile. "And I'm Oliver," said the old bookseller. Mr. Oliver brought another cup of tea. The three of them sat quietly for a moment. No one felt the need to fill the silence. Sometimes silence can be comforting when you are with kind people. Grace looked around the little bookshop. "I haven't been inside a bookshop for many years," she admitted. "My husband loved reading. He always said that every book has a soul." Mr. Oliver smiled. "I think he was right." Grace looked down at her hands. "My husband passed away 5 years ago. After that, I stopped reading. I stopped visiting places we loved. I stayed at home most of the time." Emma listened carefully. Only a week earlier, she had felt hopeless herself. Now she was listening to someone else's story. Grace continued, "This morning, I woke up and told myself I had 2 choices. I could spend another day alone, or I could open my front door. So I started walking. I didn't know where I was going. Then I saw this little shop." Mr. Oliver looked toward the shelves. "Sometimes our feet know where our hearts need to go." Grace smiled. "I think they do." Mr. Oliver stood up and disappeared between the bookshelves. A minute later, he returned with a thin book. Its cover showed a small tree growing beside a quiet river. He handed it to Grace. "This book isn't about forgetting the people we love. It's about learning how to carry their love with us while we keep living." Grace held the book gently. She did not open it immediately. Instead, she placed one hand on the cover and closed her eyes. "It feels as if my husband would have chosen this one." Mr. Oliver smiled. Perhaps he did. The three of them laughed softly. For the first time in many years, Grace felt lighter. As the afternoon passed, customers came and went. Some bought books. Some only looked around. A little boy came in with his father and spent 10 minutes reading a picture book while sitting on the floor. A university student bought a second-hand dictionary. An office worker stopped by during lunch to buy a notebook. The little shop was never crowded, but somehow it never felt empty. Before leaving, Grace looked at Emma. "Would you like to meet here again next Thursday?" Emma smiled. "I'd love to." Grace turned to Mr. Oliver. "And if you don't mind, I'd like to become a regular customer." Mr. Oliver laughed warmly. "I was hoping you would say that." As Grace walked toward the door, she stopped and looked back. "The funny thing is, I came here looking for a book, but today, I think I found friends." The little bell rang again. Ding! Mr. Oliver watched the door close. He looked at Emma and smiled. "It seems this little bookshop is becoming something more than a place that sells books." Emma looked around the warm wooden shelves. "Yes," she said softly. "I think it's becoming a place where lonely hearts find each other." Outside, the sun slowly broke through the clouds. Its warm light shone through the front window, filling the little bookshop with a quiet feeling of hope. And none of them knew another visitor was already walking toward the shop with a story that would change all of their lives. Chapter 5. The Boy Who Never Finished a Book. The following Thursday arrived with clear blue skies. The little bookshop smelled of fresh coffee and old paper. Mr. Oliver had just finished arranging a new display of books near the entrance. As always, he placed a small handwritten note beside them. It read, "Every great journey begins with one page." A few minutes later, the little bell rang. Ding! Emma walked in with a bright smile. Not long after, Grace arrived carrying a small box of homemade cookies. "I thought we could enjoy these with our tea," she said. Mr. Oliver smiled warmly. "I think that's a wonderful idea." The three of them sat together near the window, talking about books, life, and the small joys of ordinary days. Suddenly, the bell rang again. Ding! A teenage boy stepped inside. He looked around nervously. He was about 16 years old. He wore a school uniform and carried a backpack that looked almost as big as he was. He stayed close to the door. It seemed as though he wanted to leave before anyone noticed him. Mr. Oliver greeted him with his usual smile. "Welcome." The boy nodded quietly. "I'm just looking," he said. "Take your time," Mr. Oliver replied. "There is no hurry here." The boy slowly walked through the shelves. He stopped in front of several books. He picked one up, read the first page, then quietly put it back. He did the same with another. and another. Emma noticed him. After a few minutes, she walked over. "Do you like reading?" she asked gently. The boy looked embarrassed. "Not really." "Then why are you here?" He hesitated before answering. "My English teacher told me to read one book this month. I've tried many times, but I never finish. The words feel too difficult. I guess I'm just not good at reading." Emma smiled kindly. "You know, a week ago I thought I wasn't good enough to start my life again," Grace added with a gentle laugh. "And I believed I was too old to make new friends." The boy looked confused. "What do you mean?" Mr. Oliver joined them. He picked up a small, easy-to-read storybook with colorful illustrations. He handed it to the boy. "You don't begin climbing a mountain by taking the biggest step. You begin with the first one." The boy looked at the thin book. "It looks easy." Mr. Oliver nodded. "That's exactly why it's the right book." The boy smiled for the first time. "My name is Noah," he said. "I'm Oliver. This is Emma, and this is Grace." Noah looked around the little bookshop. "It feels different here." "Different how?" Emma asked. "It feels like nobody expects me to be perfect." Mr. Oliver smiled. "Because nobody is. We're all learning something. We're all turning pages." Noah opened the little storybook. He read the first sentence aloud. His voice was quiet. He made one small mistake. Then he looked up nervously. Mr. Oliver simply smiled. "Very good. Keep going." Noah continued. This time, his voice was a little stronger. When he finished the first page, he looked surprised. "I've never read a whole page without stopping before." Grace clapped softly. Emma smiled proudly. For Noah, it was only one page, but for everyone else in the little bookshop, it felt like the beginning of another beautiful story. Outside, people continued walking past the small shop without noticing it. They had no idea that behind its old wooden door, hope was quietly changing lives. One person, one conversation, and one book at a time. Chapter 6. The Reading Circle. The next Saturday morning, Mr. Oliver arrived at the bookshop earlier than usual. The streets were still quiet. The air was cool and birds sang from the trees nearby. As he unlocked the door, an idea came into his mind. He looked at the empty space in the middle of the shop. Then he smiled. He moved a few chairs into a circle. He placed a small table in the center. On the table, he put a vase with fresh white flowers and a handwritten card. The card read, "Everyone has a story. Everyone is welcome." A few hours later, Emma arrived. She looked around with surprise. "What's all this?" she asked. Mr. Oliver smiled. "I've been thinking, this bookshop has become more than a place to buy books. So today, let's begin something new." Grace walked in carrying another box of homemade cookies. Noah arrived a few minutes later with the little storybook under his arm. "I finished it," he said proudly. Mr. Oliver's eyes lit up. "You finished your first book." Noah nodded with excitement. "I even started a second one." Emma and Grace applauded. Noah couldn't stop smiling. For the first time in a long time, he felt proud of himself. Soon, another customer entered the shop. She was a young nurse named Sarah. She came every month to buy mystery novels. Then an older man named Thomas walked in. He loved history books. A university student named Maya stopped by after seeing the sign in the window. One by one, people pulled up chairs. Before long, the circle was full. Mr. Oliver stood in the middle of the room. "I'd like to welcome all of you. This isn't a reading class. It isn't a book club. It's simply a place where people can read, listen, learn, and encourage one another. There are no perfect readers here. There are no wrong questions. There is only one rule." He paused and smiled. "Be kind." Everyone nodded. Mr. Oliver handed Noah a short story. "Would you like to read the first paragraph?" Noah looked nervous. His hands shook slightly. The room became very quiet. Emma gave him an encouraging smile. "You can do it." Noah took a deep breath. Then he began reading. His voice was slow. He made a few mistakes. Nobody laughed. Nobody interrupted him. Instead, everyone listened patiently. When he finished, the room filled with warm applause. Noah's face turned red. "I've never read in front of other people before," he admitted. "And how do you feel now?" Grace asked. He smiled. "Braver." Mr. Oliver nodded. "Confidence doesn't appear overnight. It grows one small step at a time." The reading circle continued for another hour. People shared favorite books. They talked about dreams they had almost given up on. They laughed together. Sometimes they became quiet. Every story brought them a little closer. As the afternoon ended, Sarah looked around the circle. "I came here to buy one mystery novel." She smiled. "But I think I found something much more valuable." "What?" Emma asked. Sarah looked at everyone sitting around her. A place where strangers become friends. Everyone smiled. Outside, the sun slowly began to set. Golden light shone through the windows of the little bookshop. Mr. Oliver looked around the room. Months earlier, these chairs had often been empty. Now every chair was filled. He quietly whispered to himself, books brought them through the door, but kindness made them stay. And somewhere deep inside his heart, he knew this was only the beginning. Chapter 7. The Letter Between the Pages. A few days later, the little bookshop was peaceful once again. Soft music played quietly in the background. The smell of fresh coffee mixed with the familiar scent of old books. Mr. Oliver was organizing a shelf of classic novels when Noah walked over with a thick, dusty book in his hands. "Mr. Oliver," he said, "I found something strange." Mr. Oliver looked up with curiosity. "What did you find?" Noah carefully opened the book. Between two yellowed pages was an old envelope. It was slightly faded with age. On the front, written in beautiful handwriting, were the words, "To the person who finds this." Emma and Grace gathered around. Even the other customers became curious. Mr. Oliver gently opened the envelope. Inside was a single handwritten letter. He cleared his throat and began to read. "Dear stranger, if you are reading this, then this book has found another home. Perhaps today you feel lonely. Perhaps you are tired. Perhaps you think nobody understands you. I want you to know that someone somewhere has felt exactly the same. Please don't give up. Life changes in quiet ways. One conversation can become a friendship. One opportunity can become a new future. One ordinary day can become the day that changes everything. Keep reading. Keep learning. Keep believing. The next chapter of your life has not been written yet." A friend. The shop became completely silent. Nobody spoke for several moments. Emma felt tears in her eyes. Grace gently folded her hands. Noah smiled without realizing it. Finally, he broke the silence. "I think whoever wrote this letter was talking to all of us." Mr. Oliver nodded. "I think so too." Emma looked around the room. "It's amazing. A person we have never met encouraged us years later." Grace smiled. "That's the power of kind words." Mr. Oliver carefully placed the letter back inside the envelope. Then he looked at everyone. "I have an idea." "What is it?" Noah asked. Mr. Oliver smiled warmly. "What if we each write a letter for a stranger?" Everyone looked at one another. "A stranger?" Emma asked. "Yes, someone we may never meet. Someone who might open a book years from now and find a little hope hidden inside." Everyone loved the idea. That afternoon, the little bookshop became very quiet. Not because it was empty, but because everyone was writing. Emma wrote about never giving up after failure. Grace wrote about healing after loss. Noah wrote about believing in yourself even when learning feels difficult. Sarah wrote about kindness. Thomas wrote about courage. Maya wrote about chasing dreams. Finally, Mr. Oliver wrote just one simple sentence. "If this book found you today, perhaps hope did too." They carefully placed each letter inside a different second-hand book. Nobody knew who would discover them. Nobody expected anything in return, but they all left the shop that evening with happy hearts. As Mr. Oliver locked the door, he looked through the window at the quiet shelves. Hundreds of books stood waiting, and now, hidden between their pages, were tiny pieces of hope, waiting for the next reader to find them. Chapter 8. A Dream Comes True. The weeks passed quietly. The little bookshop became warmer, not because the weather had changed, but because more people filled it with laughter and conversation. Every Saturday, the reading circle grew a little larger. Some people came to read, some came to listen. Some came because they simply didn't want to spend another weekend alone. One afternoon, Emma hurried into the bookshop with a wide smile on her face. The little bell rang loudly. Ding! She could hardly catch her breath. "I have wonderful news," she said excitedly. Mr. Oliver looked up from the counter. "What happened?" Emma held up an envelope. "I got the job!" Everyone in the shop stopped what they were doing. Grace smiled. Noah jumped from his chair. "Really?" Emma nodded happily. "They called me this morning. I start next Monday." Without thinking, Grace gave Emma a warm hug. "We knew you could do it." Emma looked at Mr. Oliver. Her eyes filled with tears. "A few months ago, I walked into this shop believing my life was over. But you believed in me before I believed in myself." Mr. Oliver smiled gently. "I only reminded you of the strength you already had." Emma looked around at everyone. "This place changed my life. It gave me hope when I needed it most." Just then, Noah spoke quietly. "I have something to share too." Everyone turned toward him. He looked nervous. "My English teacher returned my reading project yesterday." He reached into his backpack and pulled out a piece of paper. Across the top, in bright red ink, was written, "Excellent work. I received the highest score in my class." The room filled with applause. Only a few months earlier, Noah had believed he could never finish a book. Now he was reading confidently and enjoying every page. Mr. Oliver looked at him proudly. "You didn't become a better reader because the books became easier. You became a better reader because you refused to give up." Noah smiled. "I think you're right." Later that afternoon, Grace shared her own news. "I've started volunteering at the community center." Emma looked surprised. "That's wonderful." Grace laughed softly. "I spent years sitting alone at home. Now I spend my afternoons reading stories to children. They make me laugh every single day." Everyone celebrated together with tea and homemade cake. As the sun slowly disappeared behind the buildings, Mr. Oliver stood quietly near the window. He watched his friends talking and laughing together. Then he remembered the days when the little bookshop had been silent. Back then, he had worried that one day he might have to close the shop forever. Now every chair was filled. Every shelf seemed brighter. Every visitor carried a story. He smiled to himself. Books brought us together, but friendship kept us here. At that moment, the little bell rang once again. Ding! A young girl, no older than 10, stepped inside with her father. She looked around with curious eyes. "Dad," she whispered, "it smells like stories in here." Mr. Oliver couldn't help smiling. He walked over to welcome them. Some stories were ending, but he knew a brand new one was just about to begin. Chapter 9. The Girl Who Wanted to Write. The little girl stepped slowly into the bookshop. She looked at every shelf with wide, curious eyes. Her father smiled. "This is my daughter, Sophie." Sophie waved shyly. "Hello." "Hello, Sophie," Mr. Oliver replied warmly. "Welcome to the little bookshop." She walked to the children's section, but didn't pick up a single book. Instead, she looked at the notebooks on a nearby shelf. Mr. Oliver noticed. "Do you like writing?" he asked. Sophie nodded. "A little. What do you like to write?" She looked at the floor before answering. "Stories." Emma smiled. "That's wonderful." Sophie sighed. "But I don't think they're very good." "Why do you think that?" Grace asked gently. "My classmates laugh when I read them. They say my stories are too strange." The room became quiet. Mr. Oliver knelt, so he was at Sophie's eye level. "Can I tell you a secret?" Sophie nodded. "When I was your age, people laughed at me because I spent all my time reading. They said books were a waste of time." "What did you do?" Sophie asked. Mr. Oliver smiled. "I kept reading, and I'm very glad I did." He walked to a small wooden shelf behind the counter. From it, he picked up a blank notebook with a blue cover. He handed it to Sophie. "This is for you." She looked surprised. "A gift?" "Yes, but there's one condition." Sophie laughed. "You always have a condition." Everyone smiled. Mr. Oliver laughed too. "You're right. My condition is simple. Fill every page. It doesn't matter if your stories are funny, sad, exciting, or strange. Just keep writing. Every great writer begins with a blank page. Sophie hugged the notebook tightly. I promise. Just then, Noah spoke. You know, I used to think I could never finish a book, Emma added, and I believed I would never find another job. Grace smiled, and I thought I was too old to start something new. Mr. Oliver looked at Sophie. Do you see? We all started with fear, but we didn't stop. Sophie looked around the room. For the first time, she realized something. Everyone in the little bookshop had arrived carrying a different problem, yet somehow, they had all found hope between the shelves. As Sophie and her father prepared to leave, she turned back. Can I come again next Saturday? Mr. Oliver smiled. We'll be waiting. The little bell rang softly. Ding! Mr. Oliver watched them walk away. Then he looked around the shop. Books filled every shelf. Friends filled every chair. And hope filled every corner. He quietly whispered, some people come here looking for a book and leave believing in themselves. Outside, the evening sky turned golden. Inside, another beautiful chapter had just begun. Chapter 10. The Bookshop's Birthday. One crisp autumn morning, Mr. Oliver unlocked the little bookshop as he had done thousands of times before. As he turned the key, he paused for a moment. Then he smiled. 40 years, he whispered. Today was the bookshop's 40th birthday. 40 years earlier, he had opened the little shop with only a few shelves, a second-hand desk, and a dream. He had never imagined that one day it would become a home for so many people. He did not plan a big celebration. He simply placed a small sign in the window. It read, "Thank you for 40 wonderful years of stories, friendship, and hope." An hour later, the bell rang. Ding! Emma walked in carrying a beautiful cake. Written across the top were the words, "Happy 40th birthday, Little Bookshop." You didn't think we'd forget, did you? She asked with a grin. Mr. Oliver laughed. I hoped you might. A few minutes later, Grace arrived with fresh flowers. Noah brought colorful balloons. Sarah came with sandwiches. Thomas carried a large pot of hot coffee. Maya arrived with paper decorations. Even Sophie came with her father. She held something carefully behind her back. The little bookshop slowly filled with happy voices. Customers who had become friends stood talking and laughing together. Looking around the room, Mr. Oliver could hardly believe his eyes. Not long ago, these same chairs had been empty. Now there was hardly enough room for everyone. Later that afternoon, Sophie walked up to Mr. Oliver. "I made something for you," she said shyly. She handed him a small notebook. The blue cover looked familiar. It was the notebook Mr. Oliver had given her months earlier. "I filled every page," she said proudly. Mr. Oliver opened it carefully. Inside was a short story. The title made him stop and smile. The Little Bookshop. He began reading. The story wasn't about magic. It wasn't about kings or dragons. It was about a quiet little shop where lonely people became friends and ordinary days became unforgettable memories. When he finished the last page, he looked up. His eyes were full of tears. "This is beautiful, Sophie." She smiled. "I want to become a writer one day." Mr. Oliver closed the notebook gently. "I believe you will." Then he looked around at everyone gathered in the shop. Emma was laughing with Grace. Noah was helping decorate the window. Sarah was serving tea. Thomas was telling one of his funny history stories. For a long moment, Mr. Oliver said nothing. Finally, he spoke. "When I opened this shop 40 years ago, I thought I was opening a business." He smiled warmly. "But today I realize I was building a family, not one connected by blood, but one connected by kindness." The room became quiet. Everyone smiled. Some even wiped away a tear. Outside, people continued walking along the street. Many of them glanced through the window. They saw shelves of books. They saw smiling faces. They saw a small celebration. But they couldn't see the most important thing. Inside that little bookshop, hope had found a home. And every person who walked through its old wooden door carried a little piece of that hope back into the world. Chapter 11. The last note on the door. The next morning, the little bookshop was as peaceful as ever. Golden sunlight shone through the front window. The smell of old books and fresh coffee filled the air. Mr. Oliver unlocked the door, smiled at the empty shop, and whispered, "Every new day brings a new story." As he placed the open sign in the window, he noticed an old piece of paper lying on the floor near the entrance. It looked as though someone had slipped it under the door during the night. There was no name on it, only a short handwritten message. Mr. Oliver slowly opened the note and read, "Thank you for saving my life. You don't know who I am, but one day I walked into your bookshop when I had completely lost hope. I found a book, I found kind people, and I found a reason to keep going. Today I have a new life because someone in this little bookshop believed in me. Thank you." Mr. Oliver read the letter again. His hands trembled slightly. He had no idea who had written it. He quietly folded the note and placed it on the counter. Just then, Emma arrived. "Good morning," she said. Mr. Oliver smiled. "Good morning, Emma." She noticed the note. "What's that?" Without saying a word, Mr. Oliver handed it to her. Emma read every line carefully. When she finished, her eyes filled with tears. Soon, Grace, Noah, Sophie, Sarah, Thomas, and Maya arrived. One by one, they read the mysterious note. The room became silent. Finally, Noah spoke. "We may never know who wrote this." Mr. Oliver nodded. "We don't have to. The important thing is that someone found hope." Grace smiled. "Sometimes the greatest kindness is the kindness no one ever sees." Mr. Oliver walked to the front door. He looked at the old wooden entrance that had welcomed the thousands of visitors over the years. Then he picked up a small piece of paper and wrote a new message. He carefully taped it beside the door. It said, "If you enter this bookshop feeling alone, leave knowing that you matter." Everyone stood quietly reading the words. Sophie smiled. "I think every person who walks through this door needs to read that." Mr. Oliver looked around at his friends. This little shop was never just about books. It was always about people. Outside, another customer stopped to read the note. After a few seconds, she smiled, opened the door, and stepped inside. Ding! The little bell rang softly. Mr. Oliver smiled. Another story was about to begin. Final chapter. Every story continues. Spring returned to the town once again. Flowers bloomed along the sidewalks. The trees outside the little bookshop were covered with fresh green leaves. As always, the little bell above the door welcomed every visitor. Ding! Months had passed since Mr. Oliver shared his dream with his friends. The little bookshop was busier than ever. Every Saturday, the reading circle was full. Some people came to improve their English. Some came to discover new books. Some came because they needed someone to talk to. And no one ever left feeling like a stranger. Emma had settled into her new job. She often visited after work and still recommended books to new readers. Grace continued reading stories to children at the community center. She said their laughter made her feel young again. Noah had become one of the most confident readers in his school. Now, whenever a younger student struggled with reading, he happily sat beside them and helped. "It's okay," he always said. "We all begin with one page." Sophie's dream was growing too. She had written many short stories. One afternoon, she entered the bookshop carrying a printed booklet. The cover read, "Stories that Give Hope." She handed the first copy to Mr. Oliver. "I dedicated it to you," she said. Mr. Oliver opened the first page. It read, "For Mr. Oliver, who taught me that every dream deserves a blank page, and every person deserves someone who believes in them." For a long moment, he couldn't speak. Then he smiled. "I think this is the greatest gift I've ever received." A few days later, the town newspaper published an article about the little bookshop. The headline read, "The small bookshop that changed a community." People began visiting from nearby towns. Some came for books. Others came because they had heard about the kindness inside. But nothing about the shop really changed. The tea was still warm. The chairs were still comfortable. The conversations were still honest. And every new visitor was greeted with the same gentle smile. One quiet evening, after everyone had gone home, Mr. Oliver stood alone near the front window. He looked at the shelves. He looked at the reading circle. He looked at the little bell above the door. Then he whispered, "Thank you, not to the books, not to the building, but to every person who had walked through that door carrying hope. fear, dreams, or loneliness, because together they had written the most beautiful story of all, a story that no single author could have written alone. Before leaving, Mr. Oliver turned the sign on the door from open to closed. Then he smiled. He knew that tomorrow morning he would turn it back again, because somewhere, someone was searching for hope. Someone needed encouragement. Someone needed a friend. And perhaps someone was about to begin the best chapter of their life. The end. Life lesson. Every book begins with a blank page. Every friendship begins with a simple hello. And every new life begins with the courage to take the first step. So never stop learning. Never stop believing. And never forget, sometimes the smallest place can change the biggest heart. Thank you so much for listening to the Little Bookshop. I hope you enjoyed this heartwarming story and learned some new English along the way. Remember, improving your English doesn't happen in one day. It happens one story, one sentence, and one new word at a time. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Which character did you like the most and why? Share your answer in the comments below. And here's another question for you. If you could own a little bookshop anywhere in the world, where would it be? If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to English Horizon, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next English story. Thank you for spending your time with me today. Take care, keep learning, keep reading, and keep believing in yourself. I'll see you in the next story. Goodbye, and have a wonderful day.